Hello everyone, welcome to the Improving Scottish Football podcast. My name is Kieran Hennigan. Today I am joined by Joel Sked. Joel, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah, not bad. No John Walker today, who is not feeling great. We hope you get better soon, John. Today, the podcast, we're going to be probably focusing pretty much on Hearts. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening under the new manager. We're going to talk about Tony Bloom, Jamestown Analytics, and how this might be a bit of a wake-up call for Scottish football. So as ever, please do like, share and subscribe and review and all that good stuff. But Joel, do you want to just give us a quick introduction to yourself, if you don't mind, for those who maybe aren't overly familiar with you?
Yes, I am the editor of Hearts Standard. It is a website dedicated to Hearts and Lothian Football Club. It's part of like the Herald or News Quest. We've got obviously Rangers one, Celtic one, Hearts one, and Hibs one. So I have previously worked at the Scotsman and the Evening News, covering Hearts, other clubs as well, but a lot of Hearts. I'm a Hearts fan as well. So yeah, I've been in this role since the launch last September. So yeah, it's a subscription-based website covering all things Hearts, from news to in-depth features to exclusive interviews, B team, bit of the women's team as well. So yeah, anything really Hearts related. And I am also part of the Terrace podcast / A View from the Terrace as well, which can be viewed on BBC Scotland on Friday nights or iPlayer throughout the week.
Lovely. And you were at Ibrox today. We're recording Sunday evening. Bit of obviously a disappointing result, but in many ways, it's probably a good thing that you're disappointed.
Yeah, disappointed, frustrated, just because I've said this or written about this a few times over the last couple of weeks, just with the performance level of the team and the missed opportunities. Missed opportunity at Easter Road when we played the Edinburgh Derby last month, just because of Hibs are obviously, Hearts are obviously not that great because we're sitting second bottom, but Hibs are bottom and in seemingly in a lot of trouble and didn't perform as well as the team should have done that day. It was a missed opportunity to get a win there. Then it was a missed opportunity on Thursday night against Heidenheim. Played really well in the first half, didn't take a chances, and then ended up getting beat 2-0. And then I thought it was a missed opportunity on Sunday just because of where Rangers are at the moment. It seems, spoken to a couple of Rangers colleagues and was asking them where is there a bigger mess on the field or off the field? And it was like, that's a really, really good question. So they're not in a good. I felt it was a really good time to play Rangers. Hearts played again. I thought played pretty well. Just lacked quality in the final third. That was a frustration that they didn't do enough to win the game against the Rangers side who kind of plodded to victory, and you could, being at Ibrox, you could sense the frustration within the crowd as well. So yeah, a wee bit of frustration going into the international break because the team are still sitting second bottom of the league and only on 9 points, and then have Celtic to wait come after the international break as well.
Yeah. So what are the kind of key things that you're noticing differently under Critchley compared to what you guys were doing under Naismith?
I think with Critchley there is more consistency. There is, and I'll get into these specifics. I'll get into specifics of these once I've laid them out. I think there's more consistency, and there is I think there's been a greater identity, or there's an identity forming, whereas under Naismith there was what he wanted or what he talked about the Hearts team being, they never were, and that in the end Hearts were pretty boring. They weren't an exciting team to watch. I don't think the fans related to the team that was on the pitch, whereas that feeling between the fans and what Critchley's wanting from the team, there is it's a great connection there. He wants the team to control the game, but that's not the be all or end all. He wants the team to play on the front foot, and he wants Hearts to win and like go into every game and have the belief that they're going to win and not just sit and defend. A lot of managers say all that kind of stuff, but there's actually kind of proof when watching it. So you're looking at it and you go, right, that's kind of Hearts sides I recognise. Again, going back to Thursday night against Heidenheim, that first 45 minutes, that was, if you wanted to kind of distill Hearts down, what Hearts fans want to see in their team, it's kind of that 45 minutes where you're up and at them. I think they had 40% possession. Hearts fans don't really care about having loads of the ball, but when they do have the ball, they want it played forward. They want the team to be direct and intense, and then without the ball, they want the team to be aggressive and again have a lot of intensity. We've seen that under Critchley. A big thing was under Naismith was the kind of lack of consistency from one week to another with the formation, the style, the identity, and players maybe playing out of position. There's been a consistency under Critchley. I think, off the top of my head, I think there's 6 or 7 players who have started every single six players. I think have started every single game, and then 8 or 9 who have started the vast majority. So maybe missing out once, and then players have largely played in their strongest position or in a system which allows them to express themselves. I'm thinking Blair Spittle. Blair Spittle's really come alive under Critchley. Started to do it, and then he's come alive under Critchley. And they're kind of tweaked system from one game to or in between games, but like the principles are all stay the same, and it's only small tweaks. There's no drastic changes from week to week. So that, I think, has really settled the team down. It's really settled players down, and it's given the team a foundation or platform where I think the players are encouraged by it, and certainly the fans are encouraged by what they have been seeing. Good.
What's the actual story behind his recruitment? So obviously I saw it quoted that he was the preferred candidate from an analytics perspective. Can you kind of just explain what that actually means?
So Hearts have well documented kind of deal or been talks and deal in place sort of surrounded Tony Bloom to begin with, and then it's would involve analytics. Just Tony Bloom, obviously a very kind of well-known figure within the English Premier League football, because he's been behind Brighton's rise from the third tier of English football to now an established Premier League club who are in Europe and are kind of regarded as one of the best recruitment clubs at player trading or recruitment in world football, certainly over the last few years. So that is, I think a lot of people thought that's the direction Hearts will go in, and then there was talking investment. But at the moment, the deal is just around Hearts linking up with what's called Jamestown Analytics. So Jamestown Analytics are indirectly related to Tony Bloom. So it's all very one thing about it is it's all very secretive. The analytics is very secretive, and just everything around it in terms of who's involved, where they like to keep the processes guarded, understandably so, because of how successful they have been, and a lot of clubs have tried to copy it. But Jamestown Analytics, they've worked with a number of teams around Europe in terms of recruitment, and I think Hearts are going to be the latest club to use it or come on board, and they'll have exclusivity within that analytics in Scotland. While the deal's not been kind of signed off and announced, Hearts were allowed to use analytics to help guide them in their manager search. So the club came up with candidates, having continued to look at potential candidates following Stephen Naismith's appointment, just with the view of whether he would whether he'd be sacked, or if he moved on because if he was successful, or he just decided to leave. So they had that forward planning in place. Then you had the people who applied for the job. I think there was around 90 to 100 people who expressed an interest, and then you had what the analytics would bring into it, and it just whittled down a short list. The club say that Critchley was top of the analytics, but he also applied for the job as well. So I know there's probably some within Hearts, the fan base, or many out with, who said, "Oh, that's convenient," but that's he's the one that essentially was finally chosen. I know. I think he was. I think he favoured strongly with Graham Jones, who's the new sporting director. He officially starts in after the international break, but he was involved in it. And then there was a few candidates. So obviously the Norwegian Per Mathias Hogmo, I think his name was. He was the one that seemed to be getting the job, or seemed to be the preferred figure, and then that kind of just talks just stopped essentially, and then it seemed like they turned to Critchley. But I think just naturally with any club, there'll be people within board who some favour one candidate, some favour other. They ended up with Critchley, who, by all accounts, kind of scored well in the analytics side of things. As to what the analytics look at, again, they don't actually specify, because they don't want to give away what is so kind of special about it. But one of the aspects that really, I think he scored really high in, was player development. That they've looked at his past working at Crewe Alexandra, then into Liverpool, and being able to develop young players, because he is your traditional head coach, where he is on the training ground working with the players, rather than your kind of manager who oversees everything. So that scored very favourably. And I think his first spell at Blackpool did, where he went in there and improved them and took them from League One into the Championship. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying how Critchley came to be the manager.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, it's very easy to understand analytics for players, right? There's a lot of obvious, tangible things that you can analyze. But yeah, it just struck me. I was like, well, what are the actual bits and bobs that go into the analytics of for a coach or for a manager? I would love to like have that revealed at some point. Not that they're ever going to do that.
Yeah, that was a curious one as well. That it's easy to look at stats of players. I think there's always like context is required for players, but I think even more so for managers of the club they're at, the situation they came into, and then it's I think it's probably harder to drill into the stats. So they're kind of, I think, looking at I think you have to take a more holistic approach, almost like a bigger view on their management. But yeah, it seems to be a far easier to recruit players for analytics than managers. But I'm not very smart. These guys are clearly very smart, so they'll know. They'll certainly know better than me.
So the latest on Tony Bloom is that he is planning on taking a minority kind of share in the club. Is that still the kind of direction of travel?
Not short term. It never was. It never was short term. That's gone quite kind of quiet. Again, Hearts have been very, very protective of how everything comes out, just because they are wanting to get the deal done. It's like Andrew McKinley's, I think, been really keen to talk about it, but every time he's had to give an update, he can't really talk about it because of confidential commercial confidentiality on the deal. The short term and the most important aspect, I think, at the moment, is the analytics deal. So I think that is basically going to be separate to whatever Tony Bloom might do with Hearts. And there's obviously I think more of it will come out over the next month, because Hearts hold their AGM 4 weeks. I think 4 weeks on Wednesday, or 4 weeks Wednesday past, and I think they'll have to open up a bit more about what that could look like, because the Foundation of Hearts are the majority shareholders at 75.9%. So at the moment, I don't think it is. At the moment, I think it's more the analytics side, and then Bloom is a much is further down the road. Is further
Okay.
down the road. So I don't think you'll see anytime soon like Bloom having a influence on the club like he does at Union Saint-Gilloise, where he had the majority shareholder, but then because both them and Brighton went into Europe, he had to become a minority shareholder. So yeah, I think it's analytics with Jamestown, who are again indirectly linked to Bloom, and then that will be further down the line.
Okay. That was very good pronunciation of Union Saint-Gilloise.
I've been talked about him a lot.
And just for context, for anyone who doesn't know, obviously, I mean, the Brighton thing is amazing, very obvious, and obvious to everyone who has a basic understanding of football of how amazing that transformation was. But Union Saint-Gilloise, in 2018, they hadn't played in Belgium's top flight for like 50 years. And then they had, I think they finished runners up a couple of times, won a cup, played in Europe. I mean, just a phenomenal story. So
I think they are, when you are looking at the analytics deal, and then potentially Bloom's involvement, is what's attractive to the people that want to invest or be partners with Hearts, is that they see Hearts as having like a potential to move further up and try and challenge the old firm. I know that's daft to talk about that now because of the team being second bottom, but I think the comparison, or if look at what Hearts could do, the comparison isn't Brighton, it's Union Saint-Gilloise, and that their rise was quicker than Brighton's, just because of where Brighton were when Bloom came in, and then they had more steps to do. Whereas I think Hearts are an attractive proposition because they're a big club in a league where they think that with the right recruitment, with the analytics, that Hearts can make kind of a bigger jump, a big step, and the potential is there because of, again, the competition isn't going to be as big as it is in the Premier League with Brighton, whereas Union Saint-Gilloise could make those steps quicker.
Yeah, and my personal perspective on it is that it is not unrealistic for clubs like Hearts to be able to challenge the old firm, given if analytics, etc., are and proper strategies are put in place. And the problem is we have just been treated to, obviously, 30 years of Celtic and Rangers dominance. And so we're almost in this like mindset where we think it is just absolutely impossible to change that duopoly. And just to kind of throw a kind of parallel out, and I'll give a shout out to Juco James on this as well. The Tampa Rays in Major League Baseball, they were one of the ones who started the kind of analytics revolution over there. They employ analytics more than any other team. It took the Tampa Rays to start doing this kind of Moneyball for the Yankees and the Dodgers to kind of wake up. And the Tampa Rays are one of the best teams on one of the lowest wages. Like, it can be done if you are smart about things. So I know it's almost a bit ridiculous for us to sit here and say, like, there is a potential in the future for Hearts to challenge Celtic and Rangers, but let's come back in a few years' time and just see where we are, because it might not be as ridiculous as it perhaps sounds to some.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing about what Tampa, it's staying on that, Tampa Bay Rays have done, is that they have, with what they've done, they've given themselves a what's kind of word? They've given reputation where players know that they can go there and kind of get sorted out. There's like they've seen that someone's got something about them, and if they go within their coaching and their player development, that a couple of years, and then they're going on to bigger clubs and they got a more long-term contract, rather than Tampa Bay Rays, who will have looked for kind of minor contracts and 1 or 2 years. And I think they kind of compare it to Hearts, is you're looking for. Myself and my colleague talked about this with talking about Kenny Vargas, where my colleague is reading a book at the moment with this a stats book. I can't remember what it's called. It's recently came out, and they talked about players who get into goal scoring positions is more valuable than their actual not their end product, but it's more valuable the next year because it's showing that if they keep getting into these positions, they'll eventually score. So it's finding these people who have maybe been written off and using deep diving into these analytics to find these guys. And I still think it's okay finding these guys. It's then putting them in a situation or environment which allows them to thrive. And again, that kind of goes back to Critchley, who is a guy who works with players on the training pitch to give them direction, to help them improve. He's talked about wanting to improve. So that's where that kind of makes sense, where Hearts are going to be looking to sign younger players who've got a lot of potential. And then if you can play or trade, you can then invest more money back into it, and it just becomes a cycle. And yeah, again, you need to stick with the strategy. You look at what the Hearts budget, which came out, the AGM, the financial figures came out, the staff costs, when you compare it to other clubs within Scotland, take out Celtic and Rangers, it is bigger. Aberdeen and Hearts will be similar, but it's bigger than everyone else. So Hearts really should be, there's no reason why Hearts should be doing to like Motherwell, Kilmarnock, etc., what Rangers and Celtic have done for years and years. And then it's bridging that gap to Rangers and Celtic, but you walk first before you run.
Mm. What do you think, like, kind of bigger picture for Scottish football, embracing data and analytics? Because at the moment, I think it's fair to say that the application of that is pretty minimal. Do you think this is going to be a bit of a wake-up call? Do you see that do you think clubs are starting to tweak beyond just Hearts, that actually we need to get onto this?
I don't know. I think you'll go around. I think all clubs use data and data and analytics, and it's more of. I think Hearts have been fortunate that they have been the ones that Tony Bloom or Jamestown Analytics have looked at, because it's that opportunity for Hearts is not open to everyone. Because you look at like Livingston will use, like, again, it's okay having access. So everyone's got access to like StatsBomb and Y-Scout, and we'll have analysts. It's about the breadth of it, how how deep can you go, how can you use it. I think it's more about teams not like, I think like teams use it, but it's more about how they use it or how much stock they put in it. Like we talked about strategy and like how that data and analytics is involved in their strategy. Is it all joined up? Is it a bit of just mix on going, right, manager will sign some, the recruitment team will sign some using analytics, and it doesn't join up. So I think the big thing for Hearts is that that's going to be the focus. And this is the strategy. That's what we're going to work to, and it all feeds down. Whereas I think maybe other clubs will do a bit of this, a bit of that. So yeah, clubs already use analytics and data. It's just how you use it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I probably should have rephrased my question there. But yeah, it's. I mean, everyone kind of uses it to a degree. But I mean, if you look around some of the top clubs in Europe, it's about machine learning. It's about AI. It's about pushing the boundaries beyond just like the basics that everyone does. The other thing, just to kind of throw out as well, is like if we go back to the Tampa, the Tampa Rays, their kind of backroom staff, everyone that they kind of employ, generally are not like baseball people. They're all like mathematicians, people from the world of business as well. So I think that's a really interesting aspect as well, is making sure you bring in kind of experts from out with football.
Yes, my view would be on. They're obviously in relative terms, they don't pay much in MLB, but they're still paying good money, whereas there's not a lot of money in Scottish football. So it's and experts, I'm guessing, will value their expertise, and you're having to pay for that. And if you want to do it on kind of a big scale, it involves a lot of expenditure. When a management team, fans will turn around and go, just spend on players instead of this the expertise. Whereas obviously we know like long-term expertise could help. But yeah, that's I think again, for a lot of stuff in Scottish football, it comes down to resources and how you use the resources.
Yep. Just briefly touching on kind of Europe, because this is a particularly exciting season for our coefficient in general. After years of taking a bit of a battering, it's nice to see some positive results. I know obviously Hearts lost to Heidenheim this week, but like, you guys are in a great position. Celtic are getting some wins in the Champions League. Rangers are doing well in the Europa League. What are your thoughts on Scottish football making a little bit of a comeback, and we can be a tad proud of ourselves over the past few weeks?
Yeah, it's been really encouraging. I've spoken to Gavin from Scotland Coefficient a fair few times over the last few months, just because I've had him do some stuff for Hearts with the Conference League and Europa League in the new format, but just and Stockholm generally. And I think he was understandably, I think we all were quite down on the coefficient coming into the season and what it was looking like in the future. And I think we were 17th coming into the season, and to retain the team finishing third, or the Scottish Cup winners getting kind of group stage or league phase football going forward, had to get back to 12th. It looked difficult, but then you look up this week and you see Scotland 13th, not that far behind Austria in 12th as well, and you're thinking, oh, this is possible, especially with all three likely in good positions to reach the next stage as well. I think the new format, I know it is had a mixed reception. I really like it, just because I'm biased.
I'm loving it. I think it's great fun.
I'm biased because it's brilliant for a club like Hearts to give that opportunity to play a good opportunity to play knockout football next after Christmas. Why wouldn't I be excited by it? So I think just with the new format, it's giving you more games where you can get results, which is all we want. It's given a bit more variety. It's quirky in terms of it's a lot of games to get rid of few teams, but if your team's doing well, who cares? And yeah, it's I've really enjoyed it. And again, I'm easily saying that just because of how Hearts have done in the first three games.
Yeah, are you going to any of the away games?
Yeah, so I've been to I was in Pilsen for the Europa League playoff game, and I was in Azerbaijan for Hearts game against Minsk, and I'm going to Bruges in 2 weeks time, 2 weeks on Monday for Hearts game against Bruges, and then maybe Copenhagen, undecided yet. But yeah, it's really exciting. I think just looking on at Hearts, and it's not just qualified, that once you qualify, because teams are not dropping down from the Europa League, that you know the teams who are going to be there, and you can start looking ahead. And the Conference League, is not it's not full of big clubs. Chelsea, Fiorentina, Real Betis are the three teams that I really don't want to draw them. Everyone else, you're thinking, with Tynecastle, a strong performance, you could stumble your way into a quarter final potentially, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. And then just finally, do you want to touch on Hibs at all with David Gray? It's an interesting one, because it's yet another kind of example of a Scottish club who've obviously just gone for a club legend as their head coach or manager.
Yep.
And obviously you guys were recently through that with Naismith, and it's obviously something that happens in Scottish football a lot, just picking the guy who's right under your nose. Like, what do you think is going to happen there? And what do you think they should do? And then what do you want them to do?
So I was funny enough. I was speaking to Ibrox today. I was speaking to Michael Grant, and we're just kind of just talking about how Aberdeen are doing, talking about Hearts, and again got onto Hibs, and kind of just talked that basically said that what Hearts and Aberdeen have learned, and I think what Hibs will have to learn, is that you can't give. These are three teams in Scotland that probably aren't your first job in management. I think they're too big to be your first job in management, especially, for example, you take because you got Barry Robson and Aberdeen. Naismith did well. Both Barry Robson and Naismith did well initially, and then but you look at Gray. Gray had been interim boss. Feels like 300 times, but quite a lot just because of the nature of Hibs changing manager. But it's fine if you've got a young manager who's coming into an environment which is stable, which is where there's a platform and consistency within the club or within the playing squad, and if he has a really experienced number two or someone on his coaching staff that he can kind of lean back on. He's not really got that. He's not really had that. Hibs are, and just looking externally, I don't know the ins and outs, but they're a mess. And again, mess on the field, a mess kind of off the field. I don't know what direction they're going in, because you've got the Black Knights. Is it?
Yeah,
is that
yep,
the Vegas?
Black Knights,
Black
yep.
Knights. Keep thinking the ice hockey team. You've got the Black Knights, but then like Malky Mackay came in and he seemed more like a club appointment than, and then you've got going from being a manager of a Premiership team to then being director of football. Just like the optics around it didn't look great, and the kind of the ownership of the club, and that's a really difficult position to be in for your first job, where you've also have to kind of tweak the squad big time as well. So yeah, it's I think it's not a surprise that he's found it difficult, but it's a surprise how bad they've been. I like the fact that Hibs fans against St Mirren kind of backed David Gray, but kind of turned their attention on the board, because that's where the attention should be, is in the direction of the club off the field. And there just seems to be at the moment a kind of lack of direction, lack of leadership. So I wouldn't say I have sympathy for David Gray, because he may have provided me one of the worst moments in football with his goal to win Hibs the Scottish Cup. But you just do think it's probably best for him and best maybe for his management career to kind of step away and take his management, try somewhere else to build up his management career, because I think Hibs need it's all well and good replacing him, but I think Hibs need a reset almost, and to kind of find a strategy and decide what is the best way forward, because you look at that squad, whoever comes in is going to have to gut that massively. I think there's players there who, while it's funny, are not near what not near enough Hibs quality.
Yeah, and they need to sort their situation soon, or they could be kind of seriously in trouble. I mean, the performance against St Mirren was it was so low energy. No one was putting in any effort. It was incredible, just like jogging back and just slack passes all over the place. I couldn't believe how lazy the play was.
You look at this aspects of the game where, so you look at Hibs this season where they're constantly conceding late goals. That is not a good place to be. It speaks to potentially mentality of the club, the players of the squad. There's always been talk of Hibs being quite a soft team. Neil Lennon came in and talked about that even after they won the Scottish Cup, and giving up late goals, cheap goals at the end points to that. And then yes, on Saturday you had Martin Boyle missing a penalty, a really poor penalty. Then them thinking that they had got a draw, but then everyone's celebrating, thinking brilliant, and then it comes back to VAR and it gets taken off them, and just like those are the kind of moments that add up. You think that's at the end of the season when you're finding yourself at the bottom of the table, that it just kind of points to relegation. And the fact is that very few teams who have been relegated from the Premiership have had a competent goalkeeper. If you've got a really poor goalkeeper, you're in trouble. And Hibs at the moment have a really, really poor goalkeeper.
They've always seemed to have a poor goalkeeper. Going back, like, ever since I was like, I don't know, 20 years. I mean, there have been some decent keepers in there, but they've had a lot of howlers over the years. And
the one they've got at the moment might well be the worst, which is saying something.
Good stuff. Right. Well, I'll pick up Hibs another day, because I mean that requires a proper deep delve. I mean
that might be a two-parter.
Well, yeah. I mean, just I'm absolutely fascinated about how it's run, and it's obviously, you know, must be very complicated when you've got these different parties, Black Knights, you know, openly calling out managerial appointments, etc. So yeah, they'll need to sort themselves out. But yeah, we'll delve into that in another episode. Listen, thank you, Joel. Really appreciate you coming on. And I'm excited for the rest of your kind of journey in Europe over the next few weeks, and very jealous of your trip to Bruges. That's like the perfect like European away trip. That.
Yeah, looking forward. I've only heard. I've been to Brussels. Did not like Brussels one bit, but I've only heard good things about Bruges.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. Well, thanks, Joel. Really appreciate you coming on, and a big thank you to everyone for listening.